Alan, promise, you can get up now. You don't have to sit
Okay.
back down until you get done.
Those of you that don't know me, I'm Alan Holder. I'm the Emergency Services and 911 Director for Lincoln County. And coming tonight kind of falls against, I guess you could say, my moral beliefs that if I have a problem with a group of individuals, I would normally come to you all personally and discuss it in private. But I feel the criticism that was made by some members of council, some of them have reached out to us since the meeting. I feel that to make those type of comments without first calling myself or my assistant or anyone in a leadership position in the 911 center was both wrong and reckless. And I'm not going to call anybody out specifically, but several of you made comments that were quoted by the newspaper. And not a single one of you, when I look from this end of the table to this end of the table, has ever called me about an issue with the 911 center. Never. And to make those comments in front of the paper, you put doubt in people's minds across the county. You offended several people that work for me that I'm here to defend tonight. And thirdly, I've got people across the county that wanted to come in our defense tonight. My staff could have packed this place, but I asked my staff to stay off Facebook and not to be here tonight, because I don't think that's the way we handle things. So I'm going to ask those of you that made the comments when the reporter was here last week that 911 was not handling calls properly. Here's my business card. Here's a stack of them. You give me date, time, and specific, and we'll go back and listen to the recorder. Our center has invested in a recorder that costs nearly $25,000, that every single call that comes into the 911 center is recorded. Every single call that comes into the 911 center is documented. The 911 center doesn't make calls, and we don't decide not to handle calls. Now, having said that, there are many times that we give calls to police officers, paramedics, and firefighters. They handle those calls in the way that they choose to handle those calls. They handle those calls based upon their level of training and based upon their expertise. It is not our job to police the paramedics and tell them what drugs to give in the ambulance, nor is it our job to tell the police officers how to respond to a call or how to deal with it once they get there. We merely get the information, document it, pass it along, and we serve as an intermediary between the person on the phone and the person that's needing assistance. Having said that, there's my card. I hope to hear from some of you all next week. I brought some recordings along with me tonight if there's some specific cases. There's one specific case I know that we got some bad grief over Facebook, and I'm not going to call the lady's name out if she's not here tonight. I don't even know who she is. I just know her name. And when I went back and reviewed the tapes today, the call, one of the calls that's being referenced, the call came into the 911 center. The entire conversation between the caller and the subject lasted about 2.5 minutes. From the time the call rang to the 911 center till the state police officer was notified of the call was nearly 4 minutes. From the time the phone started ringing until he was notified and the discussion was held. He was notified of the call. The call was left in our system for an extended period of time because normally they clear with some type of disposition. A disposition saying we've cleared the call, we've made an arrest, we've transported somebody, and then we put that in the system. Well, after the call sat in the system for several hours, our dispatcher notified the state police officer back and said, "What'd you do with this call? What am I supposed to do with it?" And he said the person came to my office and we discussed the matter. So the call was handled by the 911 center. And I can assure you that there are a lot of things that go on at the 911 center that everybody doesn't know and everybody doesn't have the opportunity to be in a position to know. And there are many times that we give calls to people over the phone. There are many times that officers call us and say, "I'm out at Gino's for dinner," or "I'm on my phone," and we know they're not available by radio. So just because you hear it don't hear it go over the radio, doesn't mean the call wasn't handled or the call wasn't processed. And I can also tell you that since I've lived in Lincoln County, I'm a resident of the county. I was born outside here. My parents brought me here when I was in first grade, and I've lived here all my life. This county has never had the amount of law enforcement that this county needs. This county could double the size of our state police and of our sheriff's department, and there'd still be times that we don't have calls. So sometimes calls don't get handled as quickly as possible, but the calls have to be triaged. If we get a call with a shooting or a gunshot or a stabbing or something serious, then obviously that call is going to be handed out first, and some of the other calls aren't. But I've got a very detailed statistic book, and I would venture to say the mayor may be the only one that's ever been in the 911 center. But our center is as state-of-the-art as any facility you're going to find in this state. We have the same equipment or better equipment than anybody around us. And when you go up there and you listen to the tapes, everything's documented, and the tapes are documented with the time, and we can't alter that. We can't change that. It's not possible. It's all because of the chain of evidence. If something goes to court or something goes to trial, there's two people, me and one other person, that has the ability to even access the recorder. And when we access, that's documented also. Here's a book that we do every year that shows every single call, the statistics of the call, what percentage of calls are handled in what jurisdiction, what hour of the day. All of that's documented. So I encourage those of you that spoke about us in a negative way. Some of you have reached out to some others and said some things since then. But when it's done in a public sense, when it's done in a public setting without first coming to us, that defies the moral principles that we all have as individuals. If I've got a problem with Olive, and I've known Olive for many years, I'm going to come to Olive and I'm going to talk to her. I'm not going to jump on the news and get a newspaper and badmouth Olive. That's just the way I am. And I'm asking the same courtesy from those of you behind that bench. If you've got a problem with the 911 center, before you criticize us in public, get your facts straight, call me, and I'll have you come up and I'll give you a cup of coffee, I'll give you a bottle of water, we'll sit down, we'll listen to the tapes and you can hear everything. Because I'll be the first one to tell you that 9 times out of 10 that recorder saves our butt. Because everything isn't always as we are told, number one. And everything is not always as we perceive it to be. Me, for the first time in a long time, I've been involved in emergency services since I was a teenager. For the first time Friday night, I had a fire at my house. And I picked up the phone, or my wife picked up the phone and called the fire department. And I'm going to tell you what, it seemed like it took them 20 minutes to get there. It seemed like it took forever, but it didn't. It didn't take them very long at all to get there. They actually got there very quick. So sometimes when we're having an emergency situation or things aren't going as well as we'd like, it always seems like it takes longer, but we only know about the small, single picture that affects us. We don't know of everything else that's going on over the 450 square miles of the county. We don't know about everything else that's taking place. So sometimes things are not as they are perceived to be. So there's my stack of cards.
And then your Facebook takes it in a whole different direction.
Facebook takes it in a whole different direction, and not only does Facebook allow, even Sean wrote an editorial, about people misquoting the newspaper on Facebook. Mm-hmm. So, whether you agree with him or not, sometimes there's fake news, and we all have a habit of circulating things before we know about it or know the truth. So all I'm asking is that before you make a public statement that we've done something wrong, pick up the phone and call me. I'm not unreachable. The cards are there. I've got an email. Please let me know.
Lee investigated the next day so we could post something about it because he called 911 and state police and talked to them about what went on so we could figure out what that one case you're talking about, to figure out what was really going on that happened. Then she posted it on Facebook after she done all that. So
Liz already looked into it.
yeah.
Yeah, I knew something was wrong.
Yeah, it was
Waiting for
just
trade.
issue start with.
Who is Molly Page? Is she here tonight?
No.
Okay. Well, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, anybody's welcome to look at the report. I'm not going to make it public, but you're welcome to look at the report. The facts that were portrayed to you aren't the facts. Those weren't facts. So
How we know that now at that
time. I did not know that. We took what the girl said, and my wording, and I apologize to you, I meant, what is the problem with 911, or is it the problem 911 calls the state police and they didn't come out? That was my quote.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I appreciate you saying that, and I accept your apology. The only thing I ask is that I've given my life to that 911 center. I worked to build that 911 center for many, many years before it ever came to fruition. You know, I came to this council in 1989 and asked for your all support when we were building this 911 center. And I don't remember who was on council, but I don't think there was any of you all there. Maybe Olive. No. It was, I think E.J. Duty was the mayor at the time, man. That tells you how long ago. And E.J. was a fine man. All I ask is, call me. Call me and ask me. I'll be more than happy to show you and let you see what we hear. But I'm going to tell you that if you really sit in those dispatcher seats for one night and you hear the garbage that people call in and the things that we hear and the things that we do and the things that we teach them, nothing begins here, nothing ends there. And like I told them today, I don't care if somebody calls and reports the most ridiculous thing in the world. It's not their job to discard it, and I don't think they do. You know, and this young officer back here has worked with us long enough that will attest. Sometimes 911 gives him calls, and he just shakes his head like, why am I being notified on that? It's not our job to make the police or the paramedics or the fire department's decision not to send anybody. But I can let you listen to that call if you'd like. I brought it with me later tonight on my laptop. I'm not going to play it in public because there may be information there, but you're welcome to listen to it. The officer was notified in 4 minutes at the time the call rang into the 911 center.
Is the transcript available? Or do we have to go? Is there a procedure to get the transcript of that call?
Here's what I would ask. That individual made the accusations. Are you Molly?
I am.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad you're here. I guess some of the comments that were, I'm the 911 director, and I guess some of the comments that were made by you at the last council meeting resulted in a newspaper article.
Yep, absolutely.
And would you like to hear the 911 tape from that call that the officer was notified in 4 minutes after you were called us?
Yeah, that would be great. Because I was told that the 911 tape never went through. And the police never even showed up at my house.
You came to the police station.
And I did. And
That's
I did
correct.
talk to a state police officer. And I even told him that I had a shirt laying in my house from the gentleman that was in my house. And I even have a security camera. And I saw him walk from Barry Mullins' house all the way to mine. And the officer told me that he was going to go check it out.
That's
and nobody
not my
showed
issue.
up.
My issue is that the 911 center was publicly scolded.
Well, my name has been in the mud saying this stuff never happened, da 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 da. I have it on my security camera. I had his shirt laying in the middle of my
Who was
floor.
this individual?
He was the 16-year-old that was the runaway from Clay County.
Same one your daughter's friends on Facebook with.
No, my daughter's not friends with him. We didn't even know him. And this happened at 4 o'clock in the morning.
We probably would not.
So
have this
but I will let you hear that tape.
Well, I don't like
it's
to
not.
I don't like people to think that I'm lying about this because I can't even make this stuff up, especially when I have pictures.
Well,
From him
here's
going
my card,
from
and I
one
never
side to
heard
the
from you
another.
once. So before you post something on Facebook about the 911 center, the only thing I ask is that you have the courtesy to call the director.
Well, I didn't
and
know
come
who to
and
get in
listen to
touch
the
with
tape.
because I'm not from around here. I'm from Washington, D.C. And you know what? Being from D.C., I feel safer walking on the streets of D.C. than I do here anymore.
That's enough. That's enough.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks for
Mr.
your
Holder, I
time.
just wanted to address one thing. You mentioned that we have chronically had a shortage of law enforcement in Lincoln County. Is there anything that we as a council can do to try to help that situation?
Do you want my answer?
Yes.
Hire more officers.
Okay. I mean,
You want
And
me to-
I'm just
Yeah,
gonna be
but
honest
the
with you.
officers that we have now are running thin.
I wanted to hear that from you. I wanted
And my
to know
answer
that
is
response.
budget.
I would love to see twice as many law enforcement officers as we have in this county, but I'm not the one that has to count the beans at the end of the day.
I understand.
And I'm not the accountant, and I'm not the one that has to come up with funding for it. Because by the time you send someone to the police academy and you put them in a car and you put equipment on them, it's costly. But that, in and of itself, this county needs more law enforcement.
And speaking of equipment, we do appreciate all you've done for us over the past, for the grants that you've got our police for equipment and the cars and stuff.
And if you'd like to hear the tape after we're done, I'll be more than happy to go over here and you can hear it and Sean can hear it if that's.
If y'all want to, y'all
we'll do
can
that.
use my office
Okay.
afterward.
Can I ask him a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, we know that we are slack on police officers, as well as sheriff deputies and state police. When a call comes in, say you get 3 calls pretty close together, how do you prioritize those calls? What's the most important when we only got maybe 1 state trooper in the area?
You have to do the one that's most serious by nature.
Well, I'm saying, what if you got a couple that's basically the same thing? Say you got a shooting here and a shooting there. I mean, how do you prioritize that when you only got,
Well, generally, the law enforcement officer that's on duty would be advised, and sometimes units are called in from other counties. Sometimes
Get
mutual
assistance
aid is
from other
called in
counties.
and assistance is made. Yeah, so, if, it's just like if we run out of ambulances from time to time, we make the paramedic supervisor that's on duty aware of that, and they may say, call somebody out, or hold that call for just a minute, or call Putnam County, or call Cabell County. And I can tell you that if it's a serious incident and someone's life is in danger, a police officer's being shot at or something, law enforcement officers cross the county lines, and they do that and have to from time to time.
so whoever receives the call makes that decision?
The dispatcher doesn't make the decision to start calling people
Supervisor,
out,
someone does?
but the law enforcement officer on duty would be notified, yes.
Or the EMTs or whoever needs the
Absolutely.
call.
And
And Alan's right that they do have an agreement, county, sheriffs has an agreement with all counties to help, to come to their county and help, and go out of this county and help them.
State police does that also.
Yeah.
And if the sheriff's department
State
asks
police,
the
state
sheriff's
police.
department from another county,
For the whole state.
and they bring law enforcement in from another county, then they operate under the auspices of the sheriff's department with the same authority. Just like if somebody from this agency is requested out of the jurisdiction by the sheriff's department, then your officer has the same authority as that deputy or that state trooper does if they've been requested out by the other officer. But thank you, I appreciate your time. I'm not angry at anybody. I wanted to clear the situation up. I wanted to clear it up. And please, if you've got an issue, come to me. And I'll be more than happy to open up, but I do want you to listen to that because it's not as you have been told or as you have perceived. So I'll let you listen to that.
But I did come down and apologize to the 911 staff, while you was gone for what all went down. Because they shouldn't have, they got a job and they shouldn't have had to listen to all the stuff.
Well, they worked very hard, and they're the ones that, when every single place in this county is closed at night, and all of us are in bed asleep, they're the people that are up at night. They're the one group of people that have to work Christmas and Thanksgiving and all the holidays and have to go to work whether it snows or whether it rains and can't call off sick. They're some of the hardest working, most dedicated individuals that you will ever see that get some of the least amount of pay that we can afford to pay them. But once again, it's balancing the budget and making everything in the black at the end of the year. If I could pay them $5 more an hour, they deserve it.
Yeah.
But I've got to be able to keep the doors open just like you do too.
last summer, I had a tree fall in my house during severe thunderstorms. And not only when I called 911, did emergency services come and in the middle of the storm get the tree off my house, but one of your employees, Allison Stickler, after her shift that night at 911 call center, she came and stopped at my house to check on us. So after that long shift, she still came by and stopped.
It's a small
and
county.
checked.
I mean, you know the people you talk
So,
to.
yes.
Too often you take the call from your neighbor, you take a call from a family member and you know these people personally. And it affects you.
Well, that's like Brian Lawrence was down there, he was our officer, he took my call from a heart attack. So, yeah,
We hired Mike Atkinson from you guys too.
yeah.
We do what now?
Mike Atkinson,
Yeah.
we hired him too.
Yeah, you hired a good one away.
Yeah.
Mikey was good boy.
Yes, he was.
Mikey, I think, is, in a supervisory capacity, maybe at the Kanawha County 911 Center. I've lost some great 911 employees that work in neighboring counties and neighboring jurisdictions, and that's just part of the
Budget.
Part of the budget. You hire them.
That's why we lost him.
Yeah.
We lost him for the same reason you did, more money and
Yeah.
more place to go.
That's it.
Thank you for
I
your
always
time.
appreciate it.
No hard feelings, but call me next time.
Alan, can I say, as the oldest member on this board, that we're not all, don't lump us all. So,
Olive's never hesitated to call me over the years, have you?
that's
She didn't
right.
hesitate to call
Sometimes
anybody.
good. Huh?
She hasn't hesitated to call anybody.
At any time.
At any time.
And that's fine. My card's there. You need me 24/7. I'll